How's it going, guys? My name is Rick, and welcome to the Boxnaught podcast, a podcast about everything hobby related while I try to complete my pile of shame. That's what's going on before you if you are watching the video version of this. If you are not, thank you for tuning in regardless. What are we talking about today? Oh my gosh, it's been 2 weeks, I think, since we posted the last one. Let's check. Yeah, about 18 days, apparently, according to this thing, which I didn't think we'd wait that long between videos. I was trying to do this every 2 weeks, but that's okay. Regardless, we are posting and we are here. Thank you for joining me. What's happened in the last 18 days? Wow, that's a good question. What's happened in the last 18 days? Well, I did obviously that soda can video. That was really fun. I've also played several games of Warhammer and also several games of Warhammer and did a tabletop role-playing game called Cyborg. So there's a lot there, and I am currently working on our next video right now for next week, which I'm hoping will go smooth because holy shit, we've run into some bumps on the roads. I was supposed to be editing it already and working on that, but you know, life happens. Sometimes 3D printers don't agree with you, and you gotta figure it out yourself. I also ran out of gloves, so I have to run to the store. I have a bunch of errands to run before work. It's gonna be a tight schedule because we have another video right after next week's video to work on right away as well, and hopefully get in before the 31st of August. I'll definitely explain that in that video, but stay tuned for that. Both those videos are kind of being timed, and I want to get them out in time. This is my first time ever where I have a set schedule for these kind of videos. And you guys know me, I hate schedules because I feel like they constrain me a lot, at least creatively. But I feel like with these ones, at least the subject matter has already been decided. So it's going to be a lot easier on that end. When it comes to filming it, I'm a little nervous and I want to get these looking good and looking right. And I think that's the only constraint. But other than that, we're just going to put our all into it like we do every single time. Sorry if I sound a little stuffy. I think the allergies are kicking in. So let's see. Yeah, so we got a couple of videos coming up, and that'll be exciting. And then the soda can terrain video that we just did, that little inspirational art piece, that was fun. That was interesting. I don't know how to feel about. Well, I know exactly how I feel about that. That one was a hard one. It was art block. It was imposter syndrome. It was me not wanting to do something that I hadn't done well. You know, it was practice. It was good. It was really good. I think it was a total learning scenario, like I said in that video, and it was. And with that learning scenario, I kind of learned I liked what I made. At first, when I made that video and I finished the terrain pieces, I was like, they're kind of they're okay. But they've kind of grown on me, and I really like the bridge piece I made. I want to make more of those. I think they would be awesome for Kill Team and or for any tabletop board. And I think it's the size of the cans and the way they worked. They just look like some sort of fermenting system or power system. They look pretty cool. I might make some more of those on my own time. Maybe I'll make them for the Boxnaught channel. We'll put them in the background. That's what I kind of like about this. I was painting these models before you, and I was just enjoying it. For the first time in a minute, I was like, oh yeah. Oh, I remember why I do this hobby. It's not just to build terrain or big fantastical freaking knights. It's to paint these little guys, and this is fun. This is meditative, and yeah, yeah. Absolutely love it. One thing I learned about the soda can terrain was that white spirits will eat through certain plastics. I think it might have just warped when I put it in my hot garage to kind of dry off, because I was like, oh, that would do it fast. But I grabbed my terrain pieces after putting white spirits on them, and I put them in the garage, not only to kind of keep the fumes from getting inside my house and seeping out of my office, but I went to go bring them back in. During the photo shoot, I noticed one of the wells was warped, and the wells, the L corner piece, the green corner piece with like the hatch and the big muffler tube on top. That thing, I call it the well. I don't know why. But it warped on the edge of it, and I tried to bend it back in place, and of course, me being the dum-dum I am, cracked the spackle. So that's actually on my shelf of shame to be fixed on my own time when I have it, because it's one of my favorite ones, but it's totally messed up now. So I'm just thinking of redoing the whole bottom portion of it and just respackling and putting that in, because gosh, that sucked. So if you're using white spirits, be wary. It might melt your corrugated plastic card. It also warped a little bit of the soda can bridge that I made in that same video when I was kind of dumping all my white spirits on one side trying to get this oil off. It all settled on one end, and it started warping it and making it all weird, and the spackle that was around the corner edges fell apart. So I'm quite frustrated with corrugated plastic card. It was supposed to be my saving grace, because usually this never happens, and I can rely on it, and I can know it's going to be a good base and a cheap one that you can go and buy and make multiple basings out of. But it's failed me again, and so I'm like, we need to find something that can be used for future terrain projects, because I just can't keep having stuff like this fail. And you can't use cardboard, because that stuff is way too sensitive. Like, you can, but you're going to face the consequences. And then you could use wood, but some of the wood and wood scraps I find, they have such a thick ledge. You would have to sand and cut them down, and I just don't have the tools for that. Yeah, I just don't know. I've seen MDF basings and boards, and I've seen them at other hobby stores. Like, somebody out there must have like one of those electric saws, band saws, that they are just cutting these things out of, because like, I'm so jealous. Like, every time I go to one of my favorite hobby stores, they have these terrain pieces that just have this FDM board, and I'm like, where are you getting this? And so I need to look around. Maybe I'll ask the store owner, because that might be my lead. I'm gonna go grab some water. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before on the pod, but I want to do an army showcase of each army I have. I think I might have mentioned that on the last one. And what got me thinking about that was the fact that I am still currently working on the Chaos Knights. One, because I want to play with them, and two, they're fun to build. But they will probably be in one of these videos at some point to paint. The construction and everything, that's going to be behind the scenes. I was going to film it, but I'm like, I need to have something in my background where I'm doing it for me. Something I can have fun with and not have to time and edit and figure out. I think those are really important, because as slowly as this turns into a part-time job, I need to still have my fun. And I think that's been one of the biggest things, is work-life balance right now. With this scheduled couple videos going on, I was like, oh wow, I gotta cut out friend time, and I gotta cut out like time with like my cats for a little bit, like I usually play with them every night. I'm like, fuck, I have to cut that down just a little bit, and just things here and there, because life builds fast. You're doing your thing, and suddenly you have several projects, and you're like, oh, I can't lax on all these other things. And so I think after these next 3 weeks, if I can pump out each video, I'm definitely going to take like a 2-week, 3-week break or something like that, just to chill, let the juices rejuvenate, and work on the next thing. I will probably still be doing the podcast, because the podcast is easy, minimal editing, and it's just painting models. But like, I'll probably take just a tiny little break to catch up. During these podcasts, I'm trying to learn how to pace myself. I'm realizing I like to ramble on these, and I feel the incessant need to ramble to the point where I'm out of breath constantly. And then at the end of these, I get so tired. So, yeah, I was recording this take. This is a second take because the first one I was just stumbling. I was getting real ranty and sidetracked and just not being able to concentrate at all. Yeah, so we'll get there. We'll get down the rhythm of these things. Anyways, let's get back to the subject. What else did we do this week? This past 2 weeks. So I played a couple of Warhammer games. I played against. I met a friend through my girlfriend. My girlfriend is. I won't describe her work because I don't know if she wants me to disclose that. But she was like talking to one of her customers, and she's like, yeah, my boyfriend plays Warhammer. And she's like, oh, my boyfriend plays Warhammer. And so they decided, let's get our boyfriends together. And I thought that was hilarious and very fun and cool. And so this guy, he's an orc player, and I got to play against his orcs versus my Slanesh demons. And it was a good time. They have their own little pad going on, and it's like super huge, and it's kind of cool. And it makes me want to get my Warhammer table going. But at the same time, I think the biggest issue with my place to play Warhammer is you'd only be able to play it in the fall or in the spring because it gets so hot or so cold where I live, and it just sucks. And it's out, and it would be out in my garage, so it wouldn't be viable for like the major portions of the year. But I do want to do it because I have a lot of terrain here, so it's kind of like a mixed bag of things, But yeah, playing against him was super fun. I hadn't played against an actual official orc setup, I would say. Like, we have another orc player in one of my other groups who has like orc horde, so it's like 200 models of just little dudes. And then we have another orc player who's kind of working on his right now, and he's wanting to do like squigs and melee, I think. So probably some heavy infantry. I'm not really sure. And then this guy, he's doing all of it. He's having mech boys, he's having tanks, he's having flaming boys or whatever. And I just all the boys, all the knobs, and it was just crazy. He had a lot, and I was a little intimidated. And we didn't get to finish our game, which was too bad just because of timing. But it was still fun. It was a great time. It reminds me how much this hobby can bring random strangers together. Like, it's the first time, I think, in my adult life kind of being a part of a team sport almost. I know that sounds weird, but that's how I feel about it. Like, where I work, people will come in and they'll get talking to other coworkers of mine about sports and stuff, and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, you were watching the Broncos last week. Well, I was doing this and this," and it's just like, when they ask me, "Oh yeah, you into sports? You into football? Are you into basketball? Are you watching the Lakers?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I don't know anything about that world." Or people will just assume that with how big sports are, what's going on in general, and they'll just start talking to me about like sports players. They'll be like, "Oh, did you hear about so and so and how he did this and this his last game? I can't believe we traded him in for," and I'll just sit there and be like, yeah, sure." So whenever I get a nerd that comes into our establishment and they mention that they're into Warhammer, well, everyone around me kind of goes a little quiet, and me and that nerd just nerd out. We talk about all the factions and all the updates and all that stuff, and I'm like, wow, is this what it's like to be part of a sports thing? Like, this is fun, this is exciting, and it's that idea that even if people play different tabletop games, they kind of understand. Like, I ran into D&D players, Star Wars Legion, Necromunda, Warhammer Fantasy. I've ran into all those types of players, and It's fun. It's really fun. I even ran into players who played the video games, and I've talked so excitedly about the game that they've gotten into it, which is crazy to me. There must be something that I say about this game of little plastic toy soldiers that makes people want to jump into it and play. I don't know why. I think it's just my passion for the lore and the artistic side of things. It's really really fun. But yeah, yeah. So that's something I love about this, because I'll even be in the hobby store, and I remember I was frequenting the hobby store I was in, and I would get there before my friends, and I'd just sit there and just text on my phone. I kept seeing another player. He would set up across the room, and eventually I'd wave to him, and then he'd be like, "Oh, what arm are you playing?" "Oh, I'm playing Militarum," and he's like, "Oh, I'm playing Blood Angels." I'm like, "Oh, cool," and then we start talking to each other about our lore and the backgrounds and why we got into it and all that stuff. And it's just like when you find your tribe, like this hobby, it just clicks, and it's just easy to talk to anyone and socialize with anyone. And so I don't know, I'm really grateful I found this whole thing. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the tabletop game I played this last weekend, and I've been playing for the last couple months. Cyborg. Cyborg is a heavy metal punk inspired artistic book slash tabletop role playing game that takes place in the far terrible post apocalyptic cyberpunk future. And me and my buddies have been playing it for, I want to say, like 2-3 months, maybe longer. I think maybe in the spring, which is crazy. Yeah, that's nuts. Wow. But yeah, in the spring we started, and maybe like 4 months. Yeah, 4 months ish. And with each month, we've kind of gotten into crazy adventures and finished, like, I think they've finished like 4 missions, 2 of them from the actual company, and then 2 of them from my mind. And they've had an absolute blast. I'm so thankful for my little crew that I play with, because they just are so into it. And I couldn't have asked for a better group, because I've played and DM'd with groups that just don't care. They get on their phone halfway through and they're texting, or they don't check out what their characters can do, or don't keep up on their levels, and they don't pay attention to, details and stuff. And it just makes you feel like, as a DM, like, oh, why am I the one carrying the show? Like, I'm just being an entertainer for you guys at this point. Like, it's a group role-playing game for a reason. And I feel like these guys really dedicate their time and efforts. And also, the game is super rules light, which is why I was not that worried about getting into it. I think with how my schedule is and my lifestyle and how just being an adult can be, it's important that you can just have some simple, fun things going on. And Cyborg's definitely one of those. Cyborg is such a fantastical bundle of flavor that, like, it's perfect for that type of thing. Just something that you can pick up, read, be inspired by, and then take it apart and make it into your own game. Like, the amount of expansions they have are 0, but like, there are people out there still making things for it, because it's an OSR, open resource, open top resource, or something like that. I can't remember what OSR sounds. Open source roleplay, I think. I don't know. But anyways, it's open, and it has you as a player, if you wanted to make a rules book for something that you wanted to expand upon that you didn't see in there, and like make your own thing, you can do that, as long as you credit the company, credit what it's for, and the inspirations. They have a whole website section on it, like, where you can go get an official sticker from them, I think, and like, you just have to fill out the paperwork, and it's really cool. And I think you can make money off of it. I believe you would, and that's just awesome. They're just spreading the love and joy, because I remember when I was making our last mission, a lot of the game is very it's almost like suggested storytelling, so it's not like grid based. So you're not putting it down on the board, and you're not like measuring out each one of the squares. You don't do that in Cyborg. You talk in story. So you'd be like, you guys enter a room, and across the room there's a bad guy holding hostage an office worker with a gun. What do you do? And they'd ask, well, how far am I away from them? Oh, maybe about like 45 feet. Okay, so like a room's length. Yes. Okay, then I get a +1 to my shooting with this weapon because I'm a room's length away. It's kind of like theoreticals almost. Whereas we in my group like to play it a little differently. So we made like a base movement and a base armor stat and all this stuff, and there's no official rule book for it. Another thing that they don't have is car chases. And so I really wanted a car chase scene, and I was like, oh, I would have to build from the ground up vehicles and rules, and I don't even know where to start. I've never done that before. And so I did some Google searching, and lo and behold, someone else felt the same way and made a car module, a live fast, die young, or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. If I remember it, I will link it down below, especially if you guys play Cyborg. You got to check this out. It's really, really, really like small. It's only like 10 pages, maybe like 7. It's not that big. It's a small little pamphlet with some fun little bits of art, but it's done so easily and so simply. It makes sense, and it has 1 to 2 other classes in there, and it was just a dude, maybe 2 dudes, I don't know, that were like, hey, I want car chase scenes. Let's go get the copyright stuff figured out and make some cash off of it and help the community. And they did. And they weren't copyright striked. They weren't, anything like that. They have all the legalities taken care of because the company is willing to help the community expand. And it's just cool. It's just super cool. And I appreciate stuff like that. I think and I try not to get into the drama of it, with how strict Games Workshop can be with their IP and 3D printing and modeling and artwork, how much they don't like it when the community does stuff like that and takes down a lot of stuff. I think it kind of kills the community a little bit. It kind of kills the vibe that this is a fantasy world that you can make whatever you want into it. Because that's what pulled me in, is that's what Warhammer was to me. I have learned that. I had learned that in the beginning from other creators talking about custom armies and armies made of scrap bits and kit bashing and all that stuff. And then when artists and creators go out there to do something fun and make something just for the love of it, free advertisement on Games Workshop's end, and then they strike it down, well, it leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. So to run into tabletop games like this that encourage the community to keep building forward, it's just super cool. So sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now. I feel like that's a lot of people's feelings on Games Workshop as of recently. Anyways, so to end on a more positive note, let's talk about the ideas that are brewing right now for the next possible video after the next 2 videos re-release. I have an old piece of terrain in my room that I might want to turn into a diorama. I've never done one before. It might be really, really cool. A lot of the structure is already built, so I just have to build on top of it, which would be super fun. The other idea is a little model kit bash, but like not Warhammer related, not D&D related, nothing related, just making something weird. I'm really inspired by the ideas of like a Pyramid Head style character, something with a masked face and or a weird head. I don't know. Something about like obscured faces or heads are like really cool to me. That's why I made the Chaos Knights as they are. And yeah, I just want to make something strange. So that's going to be in the works. And I'm really inspired by 2 creators, Totally Not Panicking, Mike Francina, who's making Trench Crusade. Trench Crusade looks fucking sick. It's like medieval meets World War One, and it is just wild. If you have an Instagram, go check out Mike Francina, Mikefranchina. Their artwork and the models that they create, they're the concept artists for it, and then I can't remember who works with them to make the models, but they've done it. They do it with Brass Monkey. Yeah, you'll probably see that in their file. And they've released what is called the... What's it called? I'm trying to look at it right now. They've released a heavy weapon, like... Oh, there we go. They've released the Anointed Pilgrims, Anti-Tank Hunters, and their little ammo crate holders. Like, they're these little guys that hold these ammo crates, and they're these big dudes with these long rifles and helmeted faces, and they're just so cool. They're just amazing. Yeah, these guys have definitely inspired me, as well as Miscast released a video this morning, and I was like, oh, okay, well, now I need to make some shit. So I'm feeling extremely inspired recently, and I want to make something weird. So that's what's going to be hopefully brewing for the future, the 4th episode from here. Anyways, I am running out of energy and steam, and I need to get ready to go to work. So, got to be a big boy. But thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. If you did enjoy, please like, subscribe, and as always, thank you for supporting me and Boxnaught. If you have any ideas for any future videos or any subjects for the podcast, or if you have any questions at all, be sure to ask down in the comments below, and I will probably answer them in the next video. Anyways, there's another group of models done, and yeah, bye-bye.